Hi friends! Welcome back to our channel if you've seen our videos before, and if you're new, my name is Abby, and today I'm going to be doing a reading wrap-up. I personally love watching reading wrap-ups. I've been watching BookTube for years, but recently more of my Disney friends have been doing bookish videos, and reading wrap-ups is one of them, and I love watching them. I love seeing what people are reading. I love getting recommendations for my own already staggering TBR. I love everything about a reading wrap-up, but I have yet to do one myself. And the reason for this mostly is because I have a very bad memory and there's no way I would remember to do one on a monthly basis. So I thought to myself, what if I do one every 3 months? I do a quarterly reading wrap-up and then I catch you up on all of the things that I've been reading over the past 3 months. I love talking about books, I love talking about the things that I'm reading, but I don't feel like I get to talk to you guys about them that often, and I've read some great books over this quarter. So this will be for January, February, and March 2021, and I'm excited. So let's get started. So on the whole, over these past 3 months, I have read a grand total of 25 books, which I am very happy with that number. Every year I aim to hit around 100 books, and so I'm well on track for that for the first quarter of the year. I'm at a quarter of 100 books, so I'm feeling very good. And I'm currently reading some that I am really enjoying, so hopefully that number will only get boosted in the coming months. Yes, as I have 25 books to talk about, I'm gonna go quickly, hopefully, unless I get really fangirly and talk about them for too long. So let's just get started because I love talking about books and I want to tell you about all of the things that I have been reading. Also, if I sound a little stuffy and congested, it is allergies, I promise, because the pollen count is ridiculous right now. I'm looking out the window and just the street is just covered in yellow and it's not great for my sinuses. So just letting you know, I'm not sick, I'm just allergic to the world. So the very first book that I read this year, what a way to kick it off. It was The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. This was my second ever Agatha Christie book. This is the first book in the Hercule Poirot series, which I had never read a Poirot novel before, and I loved this so much. I just adore the character of Poirot. I think he is so much fun. So this is obviously, because it's Agatha Christie, it's a classic murder mystery. We have a locked room, we have a rich older woman who is mysteriously poisoned, and we gotta figure out who done it. We're following the point of view of Captain Hastings, who is one of Poirot's sidekicks, if you will. He had several throughout the series, but Hastings was the first. And so we're following Hastings as he meets Poirot and encourages Poirot to solve the mystery. So I had a great time with this. I listened to the audiobook on Audible that was narrated by Richard Armitage, and I thought he did a fantastic job. I loved his Poirot voice. I just thought it was really, really great the way that he did it. But I really, really liked this. I think it's a great place to start if you're looking to get into murder mysteries or Agatha Christie in general. I think it is perfect to start at the beginning of her most famous detective. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and I really liked it. And this is not the last time you will hear the name Agatha Christie in this wrap-up. The next book that I read in January was Lament by Laura L. Zimmerman. This is book 2 in the Banshee Song series, and I didn't love it, but I really loved the first one. So I would recommend you check out the first one if you're interested. The first book is called Keen. I'm not gonna give a synopsis for Lament because obviously it's book 2, but book 1, Keen, is about a teenager named Cain who is a banshee, which is one of my favorite mythological creatures, part of Irish folklore. The singers who mourned of upcoming death. So Cain is a teenager, she's going to high school, and she also has this terrible secret that she is the Banshee, and there's like a murder spree going on, and so she's blaming herself, wondering if she's doing this, and there's somebody else who's doing it, and blah blah blah. It's a whole mystery, it's so much fun. Book 2, we go to the Fairylands, and I didn't love it as much as the first one, which was a little disappointing. My favorite part of the first book was the friend group. I love the friend group in book 1, and in book 2 we kind of left them all behind, so I was a little disappointed in that, but I think it was still good. I really like Laura L. Zimmerman's writing style. I think she did a great job world building this fairy world, fairylands. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna pick up book 3 when it comes out. So I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars, where I think I gave the first one 5 stars, or it might have been 4.5 stars. I don't remember. But I like them, I enjoy them, I like the character of Cain, and yeah, I'm curious to see what the next one holds. The next book that I listened to in January was Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie, and you guys, y'all, okay. I gotta figure out how to describe how much I was obsessed with this. So this is the 17th Poirot novel in the series order, but it is definitely one of the most well-known. I wanted to read this one before the movie comes out in October now, I think is the date, the Kenneth Branagh adaptation, because I liked Murder on the Orient Express a lot. So I wanted, but because I've already watched the movie of that one, I didn't necessarily feel like reading the book, because one of my favorite things about especially mystery adaptations, I feel like it's not the same if you already know who done it, you know what I mean? So this one I wanted to experience the story, especially when it's one of the more well-known Poirot novels. I wanted to experience it on my own before I saw the movie. I actually rented the audiobook of this from my library, and Kenneth Branagh did the narration, and I thought he did a fantastic job. He's one of my favorite audiobook narrators. He always does such a good job. He does the Magician's Nephew audiobook, and if you haven't listened to that one, I would highly recommend it because he does a really great job. But that's a side note. Death on the Nile blew my mind. Oh my gosh, it was so excellent. There's a reason Agatha Christie is the queen of mystery, and this just drove that home for me. I'm not gonna say too much about this because I feel like y'all need to experience it for yourselves. If you are a murder mystery fan, this is top tier. Like, it is excellent. My family will tell you I screamed at about halfway through when the actual murder occurred, because I've never seen anything like that done, and I can't handle it. I can't handle it. I'm still obsessed with this book. 5 stars. I can't. Death on the Nile is definitely one of my top reads of the year, hands down, for sure. It was so good, so good. The next audiobook that I listened to in January was The Ladies of Grace Adieu and Other Stories by Susanna Clarke. This is a collection of short stories set in the same world as Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which evidently I have to mention in every single bookish video I make. I don't mean to do it, it just keeps coming up. But this is, like I said, a collection of short stories set in that world, which I really, really loved. I thought it was something so cool and special. Essentially, Susanna Clarke just wrote her own fairy tales in this like alternate magical England. My favorite for sure in this whole collection was The Ladies of Grace Adieu, because for the main reason of it had Jonathan Strange and Arabella Strange in it, and they're my faves. And I love them with just all of my heart. I love them so much. So seeing them again was a really pleasant surprise, and I'm very grateful for it. I really liked it. I really enjoyed all of them. I ended up giving the whole thing 4 stars because there were definitely some that I liked more than others, as in most short story collections. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I really enjoyed it. The narration was excellent. There were like 4 different narrators, and they all did a great job. So yeah, I'd recommend, if you like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, I definitely recommend this one. The next book that I read in January was Mary Poppins by P.L. Travers. Again, I kind of both read this one in ebook form and listened to the audiobook at the same, like, back and forth, depending on where I was and what I was doing. I don't love Mary Poppins. I like Mary Poppins. I love the movies, the Disney films, so much. If you missed our Tales Old as Time book club discussion of this one, I'll link it in a card and down below. We read this one for November, December, January, because December was crazy and I didn't get it done in December. But yeah, I like it. I enjoy it. There's some things that made me go, hold up, what? But overall, I think it's a really fun children's classic. I love the Banks kids, and I'm very curious at some point in the future to read more of the books. But for now, this is the only one I've read, and I gave it 4 stars. The next books I'm going to talk about, I read these over like January and February. It is the Door Within trilogy by Wayne Thomas Batson. And look, I actually have physical books to hold up this time. This is so exciting. February was really the beginning of, I think, most of the rest of these books I have a physical copy of. I started reading more off of my physical TBR, although these were rereads. So, but yeah, I'll have more physical books from this point of the video forward. So these are 3 of my favorites from like late elementary, early middle school. I read these things like, I'm not even kidding, a lot. I think this was probably my like 4th or 5th time this time. So they are The Door Within, The Rise of the Worm Lord, and The Final Storm. These books just mean the world to me. Reading these as an adult was a weird experience because I do know the stories so well, although I will tell you, the end of this one stressed me out because I could not remember who died in the final battle. I was really stressed. I was like, I can't remember who makes it to the last book and I'm stressed out. But yeah, so these ones I have read over and over and over again. I also partially listened to the audiobooks for these while I was reading them this time, which the author actually narrates, so that was fun. I think, okay, how do I say this? I can't necessarily recommend these to adults. I feel like they're not really adult worthy, but if you have a young person, probably between the ages of like 10 to 13, 14, who wants to get into fantasy, but like Lord of the Rings is intimidating, which I understand completely, these might be a good place to start. This was my gateway book into fantasy, and I really can't recommend them enough for that. They're a portal fantasy. So this first one follows Aiden, who is 13. He has recently moved with his parents to live with his grandfather, who is not doing super well health-wise, and he doesn't really want to be there. Aiden doesn't. Because, you know, those typical like early high schooler feelings of like, I had friends in Maryland and now you're taking me away from them. Blah. But he ends up finding these mysterious scrolls in the basement of his grandfather's house, and when he reads them, he ends up in another world of Alabul, which was one of my favorite fantasy worlds growing up. I mean, look at this map, you guys. Like, how fun is this, right? I loved Alabul a lot when I was a kid. Like, Alabul and Narnia and Danita K. Paul's Dragonspell books, the country from that one, those were like my places. I wanted to go there so bad. So yeah, these are definitely addicting. I would recommend, if you are going to read them, definitely get your hands on all 3 because you will fly through them. I did this time and all of the times before. They're actually fairly long. They're pretty chunky. They're like all over 300 pages. They're not great, but they're good. And I think they withheld the test of time. And honestly, 13, 14-year-old me, she had good taste in books, if you ask me. The next series that I binged in February was the Moe and Dale Mysteries series by Sheila Turnage. 4 books, 3 Times Lucky, The Ghosts of Tupelo Landing, The Odds of Getting Even, and The Law of Finders Keepers. I absolutely flew through these, so I actually ended up rereading 3 Times Lucky and The Ghosts of Tupelo Landing. I read them both in one day each. And then The Odds of Getting Even and The Law of Finders Keepers I took a little bit longer with because they were my first time reading them and I didn't want them to end. That sounds really cheesy, but here we are. I don't know how to explain to you how much this series means to me, and like, it's such a recent thing in my life, and yet it is so important and special to me, and I don't know how to tell you that, but like, I just love these books so much. So the series follows rising 6th graders Moses LeBeau and Dale Earnhardt Johnson III. In the first book, they found the Desperado Detective Agency to solve the murder of a man in their town, and so the rest of these are all like their detective agency taking on cases. So the first one is about the murder of Mr. Jesse. He was kind of not really liked, but the Desperados decide they're going to solve the murder anyway. And it's so wholesome and sweet and lovely and wonderful, and I just love it so much. The Ghosts of Tupelo Landing Miss Lana, who is Mo's adopted mother, family of choice, accidentally buys an inn at an auction, and the inn is haunted. There's a ghost in the fine print. Mo and Dale are given a history assignment in school where they are tasked to interview the oldest person they know, and they both decide who's older than a ghost, so they decide they're gonna interview the ghost, and that's the story of this one. And it is by far 100% the most wholesome ghost story I have ever read, and I love it. And in this one they're also introduced to the mysterious new kid in town, Crenshaw. Harm Crenshaw. In the odds of getting even, it is fall time and Dale's father is going away to jail forever for being a terrible garbage human being, and he escapes. And so that's the mystery of this one, is that he is on the run. So the desperados decide that they're going to try and track him down and get him back where he belongs. And then the law of finders keepers, a treasure hunter comes to town and puts the whole town in a frenzy because Blackbeard's treasure is supposedly somewhere around here. And also in this one we get to solve the mystery of Mo's upstream mother, which has been like a carrying theme through all of the books. That's why she's named Moses, is because she was rescued from the river when she was an infant, and so she's been raised by the Colonel and Miss Lana, who run the diner in town, and it is just, it's everything. I don't know how to describe how much I love it, but I like underlined all of my favorite passages. They have maps in the front, and if you love middle grade or mysteries or any of those things, like I can't recommend these enough, honestly. They're just, Mo and Dale and Harm are so quickly ascending the ranks of my favorite fictional friendships. I think they might be one of my favorite trios ever, and I just love everyone in Tupelo Landing. I love everyone in town. The Colonel, Miss Lana, Grandmother Miss Lacey Thornton, Red Baker, and Skeeter, and I love them all so much. I already want to read them again because I already missed them. I miss Mo and Dale already really bad. The next book that I read was Merry Men by Savannah Roberts. This is the second book in the Tales of Nottingham series. This book was a roller coaster of emotions. The first book, Thief, follows Marian as she is kind of the rebellious daughter of a trusted official in the Sheriff of Nottingham's court, I guess you could call it, and she is coerced by the sheriff into finding the outlaw Robin Hood and bringing him to justice. But of course, while she's there, she figures out that Robin and his gang are not necessarily the bad guys. So the first book is a whole roller coaster of emotions, and the ending was wild, and I needed this one immediately. So now it's here, I've read it, and now I need book 3. I knew that was gonna happen, and I read it anyway. I like to torture myself, apparently. Anyway, this one was a whole lot of emotions, and I loved it. 5 stars for sure, because this is one of the few books that I remember recently that has just made me like cry, like actual tears. Like I cried, and it was great. I honestly love it when books can move me to tears. I think that is the mark of like a great story, particularly one like this. It was just wonderful. I loved every minute of it, and I need book 3 like yesterday. The next 2 books that I read back to back, I also binged this series. It was just so like, this last quarter has just been series binging for me. I'm not mad about it, but it was Oath of the Outcast and Blood of the Seer by C.M. Banchbach? Claire, I'm sorry, I'm sure I butchered that. There's the name. You should read these, so like, get a good look. These are incredible. I actually had the first one on my Kindle for probably a year, up to the point of this one coming out, and I got an advanced reader copy for the second one, so it kind of kicked my butt into gear to actually read the first one, and I am so glad I did. Obviously, I loved them enough that I like got physical copies for my collection. These are set in a fantasy world that is very heavily inspired by Scotland, so there are clans and all sorts of things like that. So the first book, Oath of the Outcast, starts where the seer for Clan MacDuffie has been taken. has been kidnapped. So they actually call upon the Mountain Baron, who was a McDuffie at one point in his life, but was exiled with the death of the prince after he was blamed for the death, because they know he's the only one who can get Sean back. And mainly because he is Sean's brother. So we follow Reese as he is trying to rescue Sean, but also not get attached back to the clans, because he knows he can't go back, because once someone is exiled, they can never go back to the clans. But okay, these are epic stories. There is a severe lack of dragons. That's the only thing I will say, because they are called the Dragon Keep Chronicles, but Dragon Keep is where like the bandits live, so it's not really like actual dragons. Which was the only thing that disappointed me, because everything else about these made me give them 5 stars apiece. I just flippin' loved these books so much. I cried at the end of Blood of the Seer, because it is such a beautiful story of redemption and brotherhood and finding who you are and who you want to be and not letting others dictate that for you. There's quite a bit of violence. There's one creepy as all get out cult of evil dudes. But other than that, there's not a ton of content. I would definitely recommend a binge of these two. The second one picks up right where the first one leaves off, and it just feels like one continuous story, and I can't get enough of them. And I know this is the end of the duology, but I would love more from this world, from these characters. It was a very satisfying ending though, I will say that. And I can't recommend these enough, honestly. If you're looking for something that's adventurous and fun and full of brotherhood and adventure and is gonna make you maybe cry a little bit at the end, definitely recommend these two. The next book that I read was The Lost Girl of Astor Street by Stephanie Morrill. I talked about this one in my Disney Princess book tag, so I'll link that one up there. I loved this so much. As you can probably tell from the sheer number of mysteries that I've talked about so far, my brain was in a very mystery mood this quarter. It usually is around the start of the year. I don't know if that's just because Hallmark Movies and Mysteries starts releasing new mysteries in like January, February. I don't know what it was, but I just wanted all of the mysteries all of the time. And so this one has been on my TBR shelves for like almost 4 years now, and it just now circled around into my consciousness of like, why haven't I read this yet? And that is a valid question, because I don't know why I hadn't read this yet. I absolutely loved this. This is a historical fiction mystery set in 1924 in Chicago. We follow Piper, whose best friend Lydia has gone missing, and Piper takes it upon herself to solve the mystery of where she's gone. This one was just full of twists and turns and a lot of things that I did not see coming, and there were several minutes I had to like sit back and be like, what just happened? What? And absorb the information of what had just happened. I really liked this one. This one got 5 stars for me, and this video is probably already a million years long, so I'm gonna move on. The next book that I read was Sisters of Mercy Flats by Laurie Copeland. Again, this one was on my physical TBR shelves. After The Lost Girl of Astor Street, I was still kind of in a historical fiction mood, so I picked this one up. I absolutely flew through this book. It's not very long at all. It's 250-ish pages, and I really enjoyed myself. Was this the best book ever? No. From a reader perspective, I was along for the ride. Like, the ride alone made me want to give this 5 stars, but then I really thought about it and I was like, it's not 5-star worthy really, but I loved this book. So this I remember picking up because the first sentence of the description is, the 3 wily and beautiful McDougal sisters can swindle a man faster than it takes to lasso a calf. So yes, this is about 3 sisters who are con artists in the 1860s, and that was enough for me. I was like, I need to read this book. This one actually does follow a character named Abigail, which was fun, and she spells Abby the same way I do. So that was also fun, because I haven't read many books of characters who have the same name as me, or who spell Abby the same way, because there's a lot of ways to spell it. So that was fun. This is how do I describe this? So at the beginning of this book, the McDougal sisters are being carted off to jail, and the jail wagon train. It's not really a wagon train, it's just the jail wagon. I don't really understand the logistics of that, but you know, what do I know? The jail wagon is attacked. on the way to taking them to jail, and the guys who are carting them are killed, and it's a whole thing. And so these three men from various parts of around them all rescue a different sister and cart them off. So this is a trilogy. There are more books, and I kind of low-key want to read the other ones. That whole first scene was like a whole... It's less than a chapter, and I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I think I'm here for it. So each sister is carted off by a different guy, but they're all like okay people. It's not weird or dirty, okay, because this is Christian fiction. We gotta be clean here. What I love about this one is it's kind of like all of my favorite romance tropes all got thrown at this book, and they all work together to make a really fun story. So we go from hidden identities to general dislike of one another, which is understandable, to fake relationship because they have to travel together, so they pretend to be married, to now we've got a baby to take care of, not our baby, somebody else's baby, because that whole scene was a whole ride. It was just I couldn't put it down because I didn't know what was gonna happen next. Genuinely, there's no way to predict what's gonna happen next. I don't know that I necessarily recommend it, and I don't know that I'll necessarily ever read it again, but also like I had so much fun reading it that I kind of recommend it. It'll help your Goodreads challenge, like if you need something short and fast and fun. I would actually recommend this one. I think it's a lot of fun because like if you want to take the ride, you need to take the ride yourself because it's a ride. The next book that I read was Dawn's Prelude by Tracy Peterson. Again, I was still in this like historical fiction mood and mindset. This one had also been on my TBR shelves for a long time. I will say this of Tracy Peterson's books, I can always count on them to keep me hooked. I haven't read a ton from her, but the few that I have read are very engaging and very much like I don't know what's gonna happen next. This one wasn't quite as much of a ride as Sisters of Mercy Flats, but there was definitely a lot in here that I did not see coming. We follow Lydia, who was married off at a young age to an abusive man. The beginning of this story is his funeral, and through a turn of events, she has inherited his entire estate and also her father's entire estate, much to the chagrin of her 4 grown stepchildren. She is now a very wealthy woman, and she decides that she's gonna leave it all behind and go move to Alaska with her aunt. And while she's there, she meets this guy named Chell, who is the sweetest. Oh, I love Chell so much. You know, it's Tracy Peterson. It's Christian historical romance, and it was a lot of fun. I thought this one was interesting because it had more, I don't want to say thriller elements, but like there was more danger kind of going on here than I expected. It did keep me hooked. I could not put it down, and I was very much like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm nervous. And I wasn't 100% sure where the next book picked up either, so I was a little bit like, am I gonna get a cliffhanger in this one? It didn't. It did resolve very quickly. The pacing was kind of weird in like the second half, but I enjoyed it. So I gave it 4 stars. The next trilogy that I binged in March was the Heist Society trilogy by Ali Carter. This is one of my favorite trilogies. This is Heist Society, Uncommon Criminals, and Perfect Scoundrels. This is a young adult trilogy about a group of teenage thieves who are thieving for the good of mankind. You guys might or might not know this about me. My favorite TV show of all time is Leverage, which I love with all of my heart, and I am so excited for the reboot of, and this is essentially YA Leverage. So in this first one, we follow Kat, who is a member of a long family history of thieves and con artists, and she has decided she's getting out. She doesn't want anything more to do with the family business. She has conned her way into a private school, and at the beginning of this, she is kicked out of the school for a thing that she didn't do, only to find out that she has to come back into the family business to save her father, who was accused of stealing something he did not steal, and the only way to prove his innocence is to steal the thing that was said he stole. That was a bad way to describe it, but like I really love this book. These are just fun, and this is another one, Ali Carter, I will always always fly through her books. I love the whole crew. I think they're all so special, and they're all so special to me. And I've loved these books for years, and I will continue to love them for years. This was my third time reading the whole trilogy, and they're just so much fun. They're just so much fun. I gave this first one 4.5 stars, and I gave the other two 5 stars because I think these two just get a little bit better. They take what this one did and they do it better. And I love it. The next book that I read in the month of March was A Date for Daisy by Tara Grace Erikson. This is book 2 in the Sisters series, which is by far, hands down, one of my favorite contemporary Christian romance series. If you're looking for something that's gonna just make you smile and make you feel good and be a little fluffy, look no further. Tara Grace Erikson is your girl. The Sisters books are just wonderful, and somehow in the shuffle I've read all of them except this one. I don't know how I missed this one the first time around, but every time I read one of these books I fall more in love with the series. This follows Daisy, who is kind of scattered. She's very artistic, she kind of just likes to go with the flow, see what happens, and she is trying to renovate the family's old farmhouse into a bed and breakfast. And when her contractor has to have a knee surgery, he asks his son to step in and help her out. And they don't really get along, and then they do get along, and it's just wonderful and fluffy and makes my heart go pitter-patter. I just love Tara's books. I think they're just wonderful. My favorite of the series is probably Poppy's Proposal, but this one was really excellent as well. It was just a lot of fun, and I had a really good time. And another one I read it in like one sitting, and I just loved it. The next thing that I read was this Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. This is volumes 1 through 5. I'm trying not to get glare, but it's a library, shiny, slicky copy. This is the Disney Kingdom's Marvel comic series for Big Thunder Mountain. I have only read the Figment ones from the Disney Kingdoms line. I adore them. I own them all. I bought them as they were coming out, but somehow I missed this one when it was coming out. I remember it releasing, but I just never picked them up, and which is weird because Big Thunder Mountain is one of my favorite attractions at Magic Kingdom. I'm trying to show you guys some of the art in here because it's beautiful. Again, this follows a character named Abigail, which is kind of weird that I don't read books with the same name as me very often, and I read 2 in March alone. But yeah, this is gorgeous. I love the art style. It was a lot of fun. It's just quick, easy. I read this in like an hour, and I really enjoyed it. If you don't know, Disney's been slowly updating the storylines for their major attractions to give them more of a backstory, like things like Big Thunder Mountain. Jungle Cruise is gonna get one soon, rather than just, you know, a roller coaster. So one of the updates that they made was that Barnabas T. Bullion is the guy who owns Big Thunder Mountain Mining Company. So they released these as kind of an extra story in that vein, and this follows the daughter of Bullion, Abigail, as she comes west to live with her father and joins up with some outlaws. There's like the mystery of what's keeping miners from going into Thunder Mountain. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it, and I love Big Thunder, so it was a fun time. The next book that I read in March was The Murder on the Lynx by Agatha Christie. I told you she'd be back. This one was not my favorite. This is book 2 in the Poirot series, and it was fine. Like, I liked it. I thought it was okay. It just wasn't my favorite. I, again, listened to the Richard Armitage version on Audible. I think he does a really good job. The thing about this one is, and he actually said this in like an intro, is that this one's set in France, and so everyone has French accents. Whereas in the first one, the only one with like a kind of French accent was Poirot. Obviously he's Belgian. But, so it was very easy to distinguish in the first one when Poirot was talking versus other people. I think Armitage did a really good job actually of keeping everybody different, giving everyone a different voice, so I didn't struggle too much, but yeah, I thought it was okay. Poirot receives a letter from a rich man who thinks that he's in danger and wants Poirot's help, so Poirot and Hastings go to France to check it out, and the guy's already dead when they get there. So we're solving the murder of this guy, and there's also this like young detective from like the police force who like does not like Poirot, so they butt heads a lot, which I actually really enjoyed, because there's a particular scene where Poirot says, I'll bet you like $50 that I can solve the case first. And this guy's like, oh, I'm not gonna take your money. And Poirot said something along the lines of, don't worry, you won't. And I loved it. I love Poirot. He was my favorite part of this, hands down, for sure. So yeah, I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. I thought it was fine, but it maybe wasn't my favorite. And not the last Agatha Christie I will read for sure. And the last book that I read in the month of March, we finally reached the end, my friends. This has been a marathon. My voice is going, but I need to talk about Peter Pan. So Peter Pan was the last book that I read in March. If you want to check out the Tale as Old as Time Book Club live show discussion again, I will link it up there. You can get more of my thoughts. I'll actually link my Goodreads review also in the description, because that one, I think I really explained better what I thought of this than I will now. This I liked a lot. I liked The Darlings. I love The Lost Boys. I thought the pirates were fun. I like Neverland. I love J.M. Barrie's writing style. Peter scares me. And so I spent the whole thing very uneasy, because I'm not 100% sure if Peter's not like a demon or something who's controlling the whole island of Neverland with his creepy tiny fingers. This is the first time that I've read this, but I love the Disney movie. The musical, the Broadway musical, is one of my favorites, and they're both such a part of my childhood. I don't know how I never read this, but yeah, I'm glad to have finally read it. I can say that for sure. I'm glad that I've read it, and I enjoyed it enough to finish it, and I liked it a lot, but Peter really freaked me out. So I gave this one 3.5 stars. And the last book I'm going to talk about, I actually haven't finished at the point when I'm filming this, but the April wrap-up will be so far away that I need to tell you guys about this book, because this is Dearest Josephine by Caroline George. I'm about 100 pages from the end when I'm filming this, that I will probably finish today after I've filmed this, because I am in love. I am in love with this book. I really needed to show you this because of this. Can you see all of that? Can you see all of these tabs? So this is a library copy, which is why I couldn't, if this was my own copy, I would have underlined where all of these tabbies are. These are all quotes and things that I wanted to remember so that I can write them down. I use tabbies because this is a library copy, and it's a lot of tabbies. This book is just beautiful. This is for sure, hands down, already, I know, going to be one of my favorites of the year. This follows Josie, whose father has recently passed away, and he left her this old manor house in England that he was going to renovate before he got sick. So she goes to finish the renovation. She finds a pile of letters addressed to Josephine de Clare, which is her name. So she starts reading them, and they're from this boy named Elias in 1821. And I don't want to say anything else. It's told in emails and text messages and the letters and the novel that Elias was writing. And I am in love. Alright, so that is all of the books that I have read in the months of January, February, and March. If you're still here, honestly, thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope that you enjoyed this. Let me know in a comment down below if you've read any of these books, or what your favorite books were of this quarter. What were the best books that you read? I want to know so I can add them to my ever-growing TBR stack. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe down below for more Disney magic and more bookish magic. Hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos from us, and I will see you next time. Bye! Happy reading!